and walk backwards. And Reaper doesn't do anything. Instead, we're stuck in a position where we're just trying to sort of advance forward and try and get a barrier set up. And no matter where we put a barrier, someone's probably dying to this. Someone's probably dying to this. Still in chat, call and get back. It's the correct decision. Just get to the large health pack. Don't try and engage anything. Don't try and engage a Reaper when you don't have a barrier. Now this happens. This lad in voice chat is extremely chatty. He's extremely chatty. Touch the old verbal diarrhea. So my advice in a situation like this is just keep running. Definitely don't get greedy around a Reaper. You are a big target, and even though you have 200 armor, he can shred through that in about 2 shotgun blasts. And we end up getting staggered because of it. Didn't fortify? I don't think fortify would have made a difference. EU or NA, that's... I mean, it sounds like EU to me, and I think, judging by the person's name, which is... First name is... Well, he's got a very Russian name, let's put it that way. I won't give out his name. Listen. I'm assuming it's EU. Oh god, that's one hell of a transcendence. So the best thing you can do now, get greedy. Like we should be on the point. We should be on the point. Get on the point. Get on the point. Put a barrier down. We are pitching our tent on the point. There is a Reaper behind us, by the way. Oh, the Mercy deals with it. Good on you, Mercy. And problem number 2 of Orisa. Wow, wow, wow. Wow. So I'd say Orisa's biggest problem is that she's immobile. Like, it's very difficult to get into position. So we want to get into position really quickly and then sort of try and establish and pitch our tent there, basically. You put down a tent pole and you make your TP or whatever, and you're there, and that's you, right? The second problem Orisa has is finishing off targets. She can deal a lot of damage, but it's very garbagey damage. It's intermittent damage. It's sprayed over a large area, so to speak, and it's just very... bleh. It's very difficult to finish people off with it because it's very hard to get specific damage where you need it when you need it. And as such, you lack that precision tool to finish off fights because you're just sort of dealing bits and pieces of damage all over the place and not really getting the hammer swing that you need, which is what Reinhardt can do. Whatever. The advantage Reinhardt has is that he can get onto that point. Don't, for the love of God. Okay. Sorry, this just tilted me. So Reinhardt's very good at actually finishing off fights because once people don't really need a main tank anymore, he can start swinging and get a lot of damage out there. Of course, until that point happens, he can be flexible with his barrier, move around the point and sort of control where damage can get through. Orisa can't really do that. She sort of stakes a line in the sand and says, okay, this is where the barrier is. Just... please be very careful, especially if you're playing a hero like Orisa, about standing still at positions like this, where if we... I know we're talking at the moment in chat, but whatever we're saying, there is sight lines the enemy team has from here, from here, from here. There are sight lines all available to you that the enemy could utilize at any given point, and you have a really big head. Orisa has a fucking enormous dome. Like, this is Orisa's head. Okay? And it's huge. And it takes a billion damage anytime it's poking out anywhere. So be very, very careful about standing still. If you're going to stand still stood here. Stand still, stood here. Stand still in areas where you are not just going to get suddenly shot by something and either A, feed a shitload of ult charge, or B, suddenly get killed by something. And I know it sounds a little bit far-fetched. You know, oh, surely standing still for 2 seconds won't just get me killed instantly. But it does happen. And I've seen it happen where people just stop and stand still and then just suddenly die. And it's careless and it's needless. So Torbjorn's dead. Let's pull the Soldier 76 off this high ground. If we reacted faster to that, that would have been nicer. Like, as Orisa, one of the cool things you can do, one of the really nice tools you have is the ability to deny high ground like this. If you see someone standing in a position like this, there is no reason not to just put the orb, and you want to sort of put it floating in space just in front of that, because let's say that you get the perfect pull, right? Let's imagine the perfect situation happens. And you pull this person, and they end up dropping in front of this wall here. They are screwed. Your entire team is pushing up here now. They're literally, a Soldier 76 stood in front of your entire team. They're going to die. If Soldier 76 dies early, you have a massive advantage going into the next fight. So don't be afraid to sort of just go for opportunities like this. The cooldown on Halt is low enough to where you can actually do aggressive stuff like that. Hey, Diva caught that one. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Please be greedy. Please be greedy. If you're gonna... What? We've got to be greedy. No! 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 Why? Why have you done this? Okay. Let's talk about this barrier. So... the thing is this, okay, at the moment, you are relatively uncontested. The Soldier 76 is a problem, he's running around somewhere over here, but you got people sort of going into the backline doing stuff. Their team's all buggered off. Now is the point to be greedy. Now is the point where if you're playing Reinhardt, you would be walking forward towards the point with your barrier up, or you'd just be bunny hopping your way towards the point. As Orisa, you've got to kind of do the same thing, but just like mentally do it in your head and think, well, if I was Reinhardt, where would I want to be defending right now? And my answer would be like, you want to probably be just touching the point and getting your barrier across like this so that people can move in behind you and take control over on this side of the point, and then you can start fighting. So as Orisa, we kind of want to do exactly the same thing, right? As Orisa, we want to get into position already. So what we don't want to do is put a barrier here where, you know, we've gained like 3 meters. Congratulations, you've gained 3 meters. We want to have our barrier like literally probably just right in front of the point and just move up. Like that's honestly where we should be looking to go at the moment. We're on full health, we can afford to do so. Self-destruct goes in, that's going to buy us space, so let's take that space. Let's put this barrier a little bit further up rather than just where we are here, because then we can actually fight on the point. Rather than fight somewhere where we can be line of sighted, and we're not really doing any functional damage here either. We're putting some heart onto the Reinhardt, but we're not actually going anywhere, and people don't want to stand here because being here is not particularly useful. Being here makes you feel like a sitting duck. And so what we've done in this push is effectively we've played the world's most frustrating Reinhardt, in my mind. Like, where if I was in this game, I would be tilting like fucking crazy at the moment, because what would be happening is we'd just be pushing forward and then stopping, and then pushing forward and then stopping, and then maybe pushing forward a little more and stopping. And like, we don't want to be stopping in these points. We want to be stopping when we're up here, and then we want to be trying to take over the point as much as possible. We wanted to deny them areas of cover, and we want to be pushing onto the point as much as we can. It also means, for example, that if we have the bubble here and we put the bongo down up here, then when you turn this corner as well, you won't lose the bongo. So, a small bonus. A little bit of coffee. Again, to me, this is too timid. Like, you're just putting down a new barrier, but the enemy team wants this fight. The enemy team wants to be fighting where you're fighting right now. They have all the advantages in that position. Where you aren't contesting the point, they have cover to hide behind, they have the closer respawns, they have everything going for them. Like, this to me is better, because now we can actually start advancing forward. It's a bit of a shame that Tranquility came out after, but hey. Happens. And some good damage out. This is good. Like, you notice how now our team is on point. All of their team is stuck behind the barrier. Get rid of that turret. You're good at it. Good job.
Welcome to Overwatch,
barrier. We definitely want to be making sure these barriers are going down. Especially in a pitched fight like this. Once off cooldown, or once barrier is even moderately low, we place a new one. Highest priority for us is getting this new barrier down. So once this happens, new barrier should be going down. Also, but thank you, by the way, El Awesome Guy, for the 4 months. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. A little bit unfortunate. The Ice Shadow comes through. It's easy for him to play around it, though, because once the barrier goes down, like, he can just reposition according to it. Oh! Tracer goes big. What the fuck happened there?
Nice, guys. Good job. Fuck's sake, good job.
Tracer saved your ass. What happened? What the fuck happened? He gets the pulse bomb with a sentry, machine guns down the hog, and then just cleans up. One pulse bomb. If I had to guess, and I imagine it's going to be play of the game, so I'll do this guess now. I guess the Tracer puts a stick pulse bomb on someone, and then they move. Like, it probably goes on the Tourbillon or something. The Tourbillon jumps back into the enemy, into his team, and then it explodes his entire team. Thank you, Marin Win, and thank you, Lord Lasagna as well, both at the same time. Hugely appreciated. Less than 3 back, Marin Win. And also see Lord Lasagna. That was gonna pop up. There it is. Hey, woo! All the hype. Thank you. Get some hype going in chat. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Right. Okay. Defense. Orisa defense is actually a little bit better than Orisa offense. Like this kid. Bless this kid. Let's mute him. Okay. Thank God. Okay, Orisa defense has fewer problems than Orisa offense. So the problem with Orisa offense, like I said, is you've got to really understand how to gain ground, how to take space. You've got to be aggressive, and you just got to keep pushing forward and like know how to be greedy and know how much room you can take and how much room you can afford to get away with. You've got to do all of that. On defense, you don't have that problem because you are just drawing a line in the sand and putting stuff down. But, big but. The problem that Orisa has on defense is that if she starts getting surrounded, if she starts getting surrounded, it's a huge fucking problem. So if they're running Tracer, Genji, if they're running Winston, if they're running Pharah, if they're running Hanzo of all heroes as well, I'd say, you're going to start having problems. Going to be raining death from above. Jesus. At least we have Mercy dancing, which is cute. So if they start getting around the barrier, our barrier suddenly becomes completely fucking useless. Now, we do have some advantages in that we're actually really good against Winstons. We can do a lot of damage to a Winston very, very quickly. If he jumps into us, we can slow him down. We can just left click into his face. We hold Fortify as well. He cannot get through our armor, and we just kill the shit out of him. So we have that advantage. But if they're running Trace, like, okay, the Winston's one thing, but we can sort of handle that. And honestly, looking at their team lineup, I would actually be okay with this. I'm okay on the Orisa. I do think we should be paying attention to what's happening with that D.Va. It's also worth mentioning that our team is not cooperating with our barrier in the fucking slightest. We want to turn to the right now, by the way. Yes, there we go. And what?
Reap it down.
Let's dial it back a little bit. Let's slow things down. Let's talk about how to defend Temple of fucking Anubis, ladies and gents. Let's talk about position 1, defending Temple of Anubis. Defending Temple of Anubis is a relatively simple affair. You mostly spend your first moments standing on this point here. You can optionally have a Winston or a D.Va staying up here as well, because if they have a Widowmaker up here, it lets you counter them, but that's a little bit more advanced than what we're probably looking at here. So in general, you just want to have most of your team around on this high ground. This high ground gives you a nice little overview over here. Lets you watch the choke points. If they try and run through here, they have to run in front of you and don't have a good engagement route to you. And if they run this way, then you can move and readily meet their team quite easily. So you have a lot of options available to be able to counteract a lot of this stuff. Okay, this is very basic Temple of Anubis. Why don't you defend down here? You don't defend down here because there's no good reason to be holding this close when you can just hold from up here and do exactly the same thing. You can make the argument perhaps that Mei is okay to put down here because you could put a wall here and then pop out here and free someone. And I could kind of see that. You know, if you're running a Mei, then sure, you could just hang around in here, use the small health kit in here, and you'll feel okay. Get a wall up, catch 1 or 2 people, freeze them, kill them, retreat back in here, stay, you know, all that good shit. What shouldn't be happening is, I think this is Zenyatta. Let's play the clip a little bit so we get a better read. Yeah, this is Zenyatta. Zenyatta shouldn't perhaps be here. Oh, Jesus. That's a big donation. Thank you, Akinbao. The fatty £20 donation. It's hugely appreciated. Most welcome. But I'm not sure why Zenyatta should be down here. I'm not sure. He's not a particularly tanky soul. He dies rather easily. He's kind of lucky to have survived this long. Good kill on the soldier, but now we really want to be concerned about the threats here. And honestly, okay, now let's go back to real talk and real Orisa talk. If your team isn't in position up here, the best idea is you should probably just drop your barrier like in front of these people and then walk backwards and get to the point. Like fortify, it's like put your barrier down so it's here, throw a halt down here, and then run like backwards and try and get to the point where people can actually help you. Because you cannot fight all of this shit coming in. Because you notice that no one is in position. This is also a big reason why you don't defend down here, is you have no sight line onto this high ground. If they take control of this middle ground, like I generally call this the middle ground because back here is the high ground. So if they take control of this middle ground, defending the point is suddenly insanely hard. Because you are now stuck on a lower position where they have cover to shoot you from, and on sort of the bridge here. They can easily nip back as well this way and there's like a wall over here that they can hide behind so they can just heal up there. And they can get really easily entrenched here. Spawn distances also favor their team, so when they start getting entrenched up here, that's usually a sign that you are losing and you have to start using resources like ultimates to actually turn the fight. You don't win by giving up this ground, basically.
Reap it down.
And so you notice now that it's sort of like, if, you know, we're meant to be defending, but now it feels like we're attacking because our team was so out of position that now they have to attack our own point. Not necessarily our fault, but if your team is out of position, we have to reposition ourselves to get into somewhere a little bit safer. It looks like our team is managing to hold by some fucking miracle. Nice, good job. Do not be afraid to put a barrier in front of Hanzo's. Actually, this is actually really solid advice. Don't be afraid to just drop a barrier here. Hanzo, especially, is a hero that can just one-shot people like that. So if you just block him off, and this is potentially your Mercy dead, this is potentially your Zenyatta dead, this is potentially your Mei dead. Someone could die here, and that is worse for you than it is for them. So do not be afraid to just wall off the Hanzo. Once that barrier is down, you can put a halt down, make sure he can't escape, and then you've got a free kill that is safe and easy to get rid of. By not walling, you are basically gambling with your team's life, and that's risky. The Mei wall didn't help either, but hey. And that's it. It's a dodgy wall, but it's a good wall at the same time. Completely unintentionally, it's actually a rather nice wall, because what it's done is cut... You've bisected the Ana and the Ana heal target, which is actually perfect. Now Ana cannot heal D.Va, and thus D.Va is dead. Don't be afraid. Again, Halt here would be super nice. And they get the kill anyway, but we are not using this right-click enough. And it feels like we aren't quite aware of the power of the slow that it brings in terms of just being able to confirm kills. It is an extremely useful tool, and we should be using it aggressively. If you think about it in terms of... Think about it this way. Our damage as Orisa isn't great. It's useful, but it's not amazing. Our ability to slow people down and control them and affect their movement is actually really, really powerful. So what we should be doing is thinking about it in terms of, let's use our most powerful things first, and then let's start using our least powerful things. Of course, it excludes resources that, you know, are time intensive like ultimates. But in terms of, you know, in a fight, what is really useful for us to do? Well, it's really useful for us to slow people. It's really useful for us to put a barrier down. Like, these are super useful, high-impact things that we can be doing. Our damage output is a bit low impact, so we shouldn't really care too much about it. It's mostly there to help clean up targets, kill big targets, but it's not really there to kill things like traces or anything agile or mobile. We can't really do much like that. So the important things we should be trying to do is, you know, in terms of priority, make sure we have a barrier up, and then make sure that we have Halt on something. We use Halt to get something messed up. Zeta quite rightly says in chat as well, Halt fucks up people's aim, which is also a nice resource. It can throw off aim that people have on your team, but honestly, they should be able to predict it, and the fact that they're slowed down afterwards really mitigates that factor. So just slow people down, and then start putting damage into them. And that, like, the thing is, if you halt and then do damage, your damage output will be very similar to if you just did damage, because you will be more accurate because of the halt. So it's very much worth using. Just use it to mess people around. It's an insanely powerful ability. It is, in my mind, probably Orisa's best ability. Shooting the floor does not make a barrier appear. I imagine we're just frantically pressing the button. Okay, there we go. Also, it's worth mentioning, Halt is especially powerful on heroes like Winston. Winston, Reinhardt, Reaper, anything that has limited range or poor engagement ranges. If you just put a Halt down and D.Va just moves backwards, this D.Va escapes or gets out of range no matter what. This Winston has a hard time closing in, and suddenly he's just that much more vulnerable for that much longer. Like, it's a really powerful tool. So don't be afraid to use it aggressively. Wasn't too bad. Let's get a barrier down somewhere. I don't care whether it's watching the front or watching this way, but we needed that down. So, like, if you're playing the Soldier 76, right, he knows that there's a bunch of low health people down there. He's getting healed up. He wants to go and kill them. Like, the Soldier 76 wants to go and hunt these people down. If you put the barrier in the doorway, then he can go and poke out that much further and start doing things down this way. You could also turn around and put the barrier facing where the rest of the enemy team is and maybe try fighting them. But by not putting down the barrier, your team is somewhat limited in what they can do. And by putting the barrier there as well, it's like, we can't actually go and hunt these people down that are potentially vulnerable, potentially isolated. We can't go and do that anymore. That's a very nice pull, though. Very good pull. But we want to be able to be a bit more aggro. I like this decision to turn around and get onto the point. Don't like this decision to bongo without any cover for the bongo. Okay, let's look at this. Ah, coffee. Wonderful, life-giving coffee. So they've just dropped the beat. We've bongoed. I would say try and get the barrier down first, then bongo. And honestly, we'd probably be better like putting the barrier down over here and then bongoing over here if we that is our plan, because right now it's just sort of facing the enemy team, so it's vulnerable. Let's talk about Orisa's ultimate. Orisa's ultimate is honestly, in my mind, one of the most underrated ultimates in the game. It is extremely good. It has the same effect of putting a nano boost on the entire team, minus the damage mitigation. So you have a 50% damage increase on everyone in range of the bongo. It is effective by line of sight, and it can be killed. That is its weakness. It has about 100 hit points, I think, maybe 150, maybe 200. It's relatively low hit points, though. Like, it doesn't last that long if any kind of focus damage comes on it. So you have to be a little bit careful with it. Well, fuck. Feels bad, man. Looks like May saved the day. Now, bongo is extremely powerful. And so, to me, the key to getting a good bongo off is putting it into a location where the enemy team has a hard time getting to it. I'd also mention, just judging by this fortify, be very careful about reactionary fortifies. This guy, even if he could move, isn't looking at us. So Fortify is actually on a relatively long cooldown. So we want to be a little bit careful about using Fortify. Halt, I'd say you can spam relatively freely. Fortify, you want to be a little bit more careful with, because once Fortify is down, it's also a signal to the enemy team that they can go and do things aggressively. Like they will start pushing in after you use Fortify, so by saving Fortify, you basically have an extra layer of insurance that makes it hard for the enemy team to do stuff. Now that they have a D.Va, that's a real problem Marino for us, because D.Va can A, get through our barriers very easily, B, she eats up all our damage and eats up all our pulls, and C, like, as we saw before, our barriers are not great against her ultimate. This is the advantage Orisa brings, of course, is the shitloads of damage. Winston, again, Winston's barrier cannot survive against Orisa's. They need to have a stronger dive to make Winston work against Orisa. I like the fact that we are... Ooh, beautiful pull. I like the fact that we're refreshing these barriers aggressively. And refresh, refresh, refresh. Come on, there we go. Needs to be a bit snappier. A little bit quicker on the refreshing. What? The... What? 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 Okay. What does this mean? I guess. Right. Let's go back to here. What does this mean? A, either May's decided to throw the game, or B, May has spotted something in the tunnel. We want to be a little bit cognizant of that fact. So we're fighting, we're fighting, we're fighting, we're fighting, we're fighting. Paul gets eaten. Okay, whatever. Shell out damage onto the D.Va. Feels good, man. There's a Reaper floating around somewhere nearby we want to be a bit careful about. Reaper flanking gets called out even, so do keep in mind that there is a Reaper somewhere that we might want to interfere with at some point, rather than just doing this frontline damage, although we're doing a good job of just keeping them suppressed back. The fact that she does this is a sign to me that she's looking for something on the side. Like, I think Reaper's in that tunnel, I guess, but I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Let's get our barrier a bit closer to the team. So this is a problem now. The threat is no longer this way. And if you think about where the next fight's going to be happening, it's going to be happening around this Reaper. So we want to be getting a barrier down closer to the point where we can sort of bisect the point and play around that barrier, rather than trying to cut down the main attacking angle of their team. I'd say the bongo here is very a little bit too early. It's a bit preemptive. They're just throwing. Okay. There's no reason for them to push into that. I legitimately don't understand these people who do this. Where it's like, okay, Reaper is dead. They've just used a powerful ultimate. And Pharah is dead. Now is the time to push. Does that sound insane to anybody else? Does that sound crazy to you? If that sounds crazy to you, it's cause it is. D.Va and Mercy should have just walked away. They should have just left. And then just regrouped. Listen guys, when the enemy team uses ultimates that have a duration, that is not a sign for your team to push. That is not a signal, you know, if you hear Molten Core in the distance, that's a sign not to push. If it's do-do-do-do-do-do, don't push. Lol? Question mark? That's actually a problem for us, actually. Bastion is actually scary. Okay. So, first things first, we should be pulling this guy. Like, again, halting him is just a good idea, it just slows him down. The Bastion, even though it says on the kill feed, Bastion killed us, Reaper probably did the lion's share of the damage there, and Bastion just got the finishing blow. We want to be extremely careful. Good job, isolate the Bastion. You notice that we can't kill through his armor without any help. There we go, help's on the way. They potentially have res. Kill that, good job. Right. Oh, this kid. Bless him, bless him. The surprise attack Bastion, no one suspects it. With the tranquility, like, now we're feeling good. Again, for, like, when you see a Mercy especially, like, bounce forward like this, that's a good sign as well that you should just probably put a halt here. Just to interfere with the Mercy's movement and make it a little bit harder for her to float around. Because she could have a res, which is scary. Luckily she goes down, which is quite nice. But imagine if they had a res here, they will probably guaranteed win this fight. Bless this child. Somebody needs to. Just, how can he just kill? Oh, I'm gonna try and translate for this angry, shrieking, sassy child.
How can he just kill us like that?
How can he just kill us like that? Fun fact, actually, Reaper's seen an uptick. He's occasionally been picked in Korea now. Literally on Temple of Anubis. Usually more on defense than offense, but part of it is because he is actually really, really strong in fights like this one where you just have a big brawl on the point for like 3 weeks. Reaper actually does very well in those circumstances, so when he's in close, like when Reaper is able to do the things he does well, it should come as no fucking shock that Reaper is actually really good at those things. That's a nice pull, by the way, I like that. Like, I love, that's worth doing to fuck with Reinhardts, let me put it this way. This strikes me as extremely stupid by this area. Get a barrier down in front of the Mei. Not behind the Mei. We needed that in front of the Mei. We should also be, we should have our toe on the point. Good job. Good job. We'll talk about that Mei shield in a second. Let me just see out the rest of this fight. We could have had that pull out earlier. It does end up interfering with the Mercy, which is good. Good job. They are literally throwing at the moment, by the way. They are giving away the game. There's a red star spray. I think it's the pink star, Hannah Song, Diva, Hollywood star. It only looks red due to the encoding of YouTube. YouTube does not handle reds well. Okay, so let's talk about this Mei wall, or this Mei barrier that was sort of getting me so caught up. So, they're already kind of losing this fight, they're out of position, Zarya just throws a random ass Graviton Surge in, and honestly you guys already have the advantage. The key thing is, this Mei can honestly do a huge amount of work here. The only thing you had to do is get the barrier down, oh, that really bad, get the barrier down to bisect as much of, especially the Reinhardt and the Lucio, if you just bisect those two, but ideally you would have the barrier coming between Mei and Zarya, and if you block that even for a split second, what will happen is the Mei will naturally just be able to freeze the Zarya. With a Discord orb on it, it pretty much guarantees the kill on the Zarya, and removing Zarya's is super important. By not succeeding on the freeze on the Mei, you've left her a bit vulnerable, and she's had to ice block and then gets hunted down by the Reinhardt and killed. Sucks a little bit. I like the aggression here, just going in for the Reinhardt though. Get the kill. We didn't need to, so 76 did come in and save the day. It was good, man. Don't have to do anything. And now we win. For no good reason, they resurrect. Again, this is a terrible resurrect. This is them wasting about 15 seconds and an ultimate for the privilege of wasting 15 seconds. There is no way Bastion and Mercy beats all 6 of you. Bastion, Mercy, Reaper, if Reaper was still around, would still not beat all 6 of you. So they've just staggered themselves even more, and they paid a resurrect to do it. Like, it's... No. But that entire fight was just a series of, like, half the team is dead. Oh, Zarya uses Graviton Surge. Mei walls it, you put a barrier up, you're fine. They eventually kill the Mei. But then she just, you know, there's not enough people there to finish everyone off, so you just come out of spawn anyway and you win. The way you win Temple of Anubis is you fight decisively. I'm fine with the use of this bongo, by the way. This is likely to be the last major fight, so using the bongo is okay. That said, do not get distracted. You've already kind of done your job. Like, the Bastion's in the distance. When you see this, you got a barrier up. Don't give a shit about this. Orisa is really bad at fighting, like... I mean, let's start off here, like, with Mei getting the fucking super value Blizzard. So first of all, Soldier 76 wastes his visor by just shooting it into a Reinhardt barrier. That he should be a little bit more patient. This is a really nice Blizzard by her, because it basically has just bisected their entire team. You guys can take your time just killing off everything in here first. Now, honestly, you didn't even have to come back out here. You could have just left this, put a barrier behind you, put down the bongo, and just fight in the corner here. Instead, we should definitely be focusing on these close range threats because we are just so much better at dealing with them. The Bastion is not going to be a problem for the next 5 seconds until he wheels himself over there. He's ulted way too far in the distance away from his team. And so if our focus was a little bit better on these sort of priority targets, then we could probably deal with them first. Don't get me wrong, if the Bastion was closer, you would have been perfectly fine shooting the shit out of him. But because he's so far away, we can just put a barrier up and forget about him for a while. Like, we don't need to worry about that. The barrier will stop any damage. We do manage to hold it, and we do manage to take it in the end. Yeah. The reason why 2CP feels as bad as it does is because it's much more tactical. Kind of. 2CP feels bad because it requires very... The thing with 2CP is it has to be balanced to where if you win one, like if you... Let me think how to phrase this correctly. This is a good summary. Oh, so this is a tracer bomb. I call that the tourbillon would be the one that gets stuck. It looks like... That wasn't the fucking turret! That was on a turret. How, it doesn't move. You walk away from it and you're fine. Like, usually when stuff like this happens, it's because someone's got stuck and then jumped into other people. The Reinhardt puts his barrier up at the wrong moment, and tourbillon just stands next to his turret for no clear reason and dies. I could forgive the Reinhardt because the Reinhardt slowed himself down by putting his barrier up. The tourbillon has no fucking excuse. Oh, look at the tracking. Look at the tracking. Look at the aim. Look at the moves. Almost gets fucking deleted by that right click. Holy shit. Look at this. Imagine if that shot was, like, at head level instead of at foot level. Don't get me wrong, shooting Tracer's Crocs is well worth doing, but... Alright, I was making a point about 2CP. We'll take questions in a moment, by the way, so you might want to be thinking about what questions you want to be asking. But yeah, 2CP is very much... the design of it is based around the idea that if you are defending, you can only really lose one battle, right? Because then the enemy team takes over the point. It's built so that if you lose a battle, that's it. As such, the defender's advantage is so heavy that they are assumed to win most of the fights. Like, that's how TCP has to work to function as a game mode. If you don't win most of the fights, you end up with what happens on the first points, where the defender's advantage isn't necessarily there. Like, you don't have the close spawns, you don't have all that stuff, so it's much harder to hold. And so they, you might win one fight, you might win two fights, but then they come in and win a fight, because if you assume that both teams are evenly balanced, you should go about 50-50. Then they come in and take the point, assuming that balance is equal. What ends up happening on the final point, though, is that the defenders have such a huge advantage that if you don't win decisively, you just end up losing. So you have to make sure that when you are winning a fight on 2CP, you are sledgehammering the enemy team. You can't just sort of do it in drips and drabs, because then their respawn advantage kicks in and they start defending again in a really heavy way. Right. Okay.